Hello, everybody. I'm Allie.
I'm
I'm
Jacqueline.
Grace. I'm Grace.
And I'm Kelly.
I'm Sydney.
Our case study was about a woman who was diagnosed with cancer. She's also a nurse, and then she went into remission, but unfortunately, her cancer had come back. And it's kind of just her talking through her experience and everything that's going on with her life. So, to start us off, my personal reflection and self assessment of this case study was just that her cancer came back in remission, or her cancer came back while she was in remission, and she seemed in good spirits about it, but deep down you could tell she was scared. She stated, I would have given myself a quality of life rather than a quantity of life, because the treatment that she's going through really just brings her down and doesn't give her any quality of life. And she's younger, she has younger kids, so that's really kind of interfering with her life and what she wants to do.
And to add on what Allie had said, I pretty much had the exact same things down with her just saying like she'd received treatments before and now it's coming back, but she understands that her quality of life is more important. And like she's upset with her cancer coming back. She still wants to see like some special moments in her children's life, like the graduation she had mentioned.
Yeah, I agree with both of them, both Allie and Jacqueline. For me, it just resonated with me mostly because she has ovarian cancer. Even though it's not the same, my mother, she had cervical cancer. So it was just like really, like, I was able not like relate to her, but I saw like the same like thought process that my own mother had. Like, my mom didn't had high hopes and stuff like that. So, I mean, I was pretty young, but I mostly remember my mom dropping to 80 pounds, losing her hair, and like her always just stating like how painful it is. So like I totally agree like with her wanting just to like if it was too it's metastasized and gone too far for her just to go like have a comfortable life rather than like keep treating it. Like I totally agree with her.
Oh, that's sad. But I thought the video was, pretty sad because like she's a mother, she's a nurse, so she's constantly like around like dealing with that stuff. So then for her also to have like high hopes and like just making sure she does like what Allie says, live that good quality of life. It's really good for her because especially since she was in remission and it came back, that is very hard for her and her family to deal with. So just keeping high hopes in this situation is very important.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with like what everyone said. Like this video was very touching, especially because like when she was in remission, like her cancer had came back. So I just pretty much agree with what everyone was saying. So how do you guys feel or what are your personal thoughts on the video? Do you guys like have any biases on this video?
For me, I just said like my personal thoughts is that Diane has like a very positive outlook on the situation. Like it is very unfortunate, but because of her background knowledge of already going through this and then being a nurse on top of that, like she understands what's going on, and like she knows that like treatment could be a good option, but at this point, like since it's a recurrence of the cancer, it's not an initial diagnosis, that like she kind of has to pick and choose how she wants to live the rest of her life, and if she would rather go through treatment or like live it to the fullest. I don't really have any biases. I think she's handling it very well, and coming to terms with the idea of death is something that not a lot of people can do, and it's very hard to deal with, but I feel like she's come to the point where she can. And from the book, they describe acceptance as acknowledging the inevitability of dying, which she has done, and she wants to be able to control the circumstances under which she dies. So I think that's really important.
And then to add on what Allie had said, I pretty much like the same ideas. Like I think she has a really positive outlook and she's more understanding because of her like medical background. But like similar to Kelly, also my mom had cervical cancer. So like I wouldn't have a bias, but I can kind of relate to her situation in a sense because I watched my mom go through all of that treatment also. So I just understand like how stressful it can be for someone to go through that and having to put like themselves through it also.
Yeah, I don't believe I have any biases towards it. I was pretty young when my mom had cervical cancer and she had stage 4, which like I remember having like a therapist lady just coming to me and just basically helping me try and accept that my mom probably wouldn't make it. So even though I was like too young to understand it, I feel like I wouldn't have any bias towards it. And if my mom decided to like go to the same route as the nurse and just like not go through all the extensive treatment, I don't think I would like have been opposed to it. It's just it's like a horrible thing to go through. Like I totally agree.
Yeah, I mean, I've never experienced that firsthand, so I can't really, well, I don't have any biases and really can't say anything much on that part. But I mean, it just witnessing from people that I've seen and just I'm hearing from like my friends and like family talk about it, just witnessing like the whole like acceptance of like death part is just very like sad, but also like not a sad thing, kind of like a joyful, hopeful thing that like you know that you've lived a good life and you're just accepting because it at the end of the day it is a part of everyone's life, but it's obviously very unfortunate that it has to be cut short for many.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with like what everybody's saying. I don't really have any biases either, and I also can't like directly relate to that, but like I agree that like with her wanting to live a comfortable life, like if the cancer had like to spread or anything like that, that's her decision and she has the right to make her own decisions in that situation. Nobody else can tell her what to do or, like make that decision for her. It's her life, and if she thinks that that's the best decision, like with her time to come to terms with death and live it to the fullest, then she should be able to do that. So, do you guys have any conflicts existing between your personal values, like culture, religion, spiritual beliefs, or anything like that? And if so, like how would you deal with them?
No, I really don't have any conflicts, and I feel like personally I would make the same decision that Diane is making because she's choosing to live a comfortable life and give herself a good couple of weeks rather than a miserable couple of months or however long it would be going through chemotherapy. And I know it also asked like how the staff like reacted to her and everything, and I feel like the staff acted very well in this situation. Like Diane was kind of asking funnier questions like, "Oh, will I lose my hair?" and like kind of making light of the situation. And the doctor never made her feel bad for that or anything. She just answered her questions and kept her in good spirits, which I really like. So yeah, I feel like I don't really have any personal values that interfere with it. I would kind of do the same thing.
Yeah, and similar to what Ali said, like I don't have any conflicts with the treatments. I think that I will agree with and honor the patient's wishes as best as I can. I can always offer my opinions if they ask for them and say what I think is best. And this idea is also like explained in our book that different cultures have distinctive communication and care standards for patients with life-threatening conditions. So basically just like everyone is going to want something different and you're going to see different choices amongst everyone. So I think it's best to kind of like give your opinion when it's needed and then honor what someone else wants to choose to do with their life.
Yeah, I agree with everybody. I don't think I have any like like conflicts between like my personal values and the way the staff was treating her. Um, I like how they were like trying to like dig in more deep, like what like relieved her pain, what worked or didn't. I thought that was good. And like the doctor kept like smiling at her, like, like answering her questions, like listening to her, like paying attention to stuff like that. Like, I mean, that's something I would probably do, like, as a nurse, like, once cultural needs are identified, every effort should be taken to honor their meaning to patient and families by incorporating them in care. That could be as simple as like, just like meeting her, like figuring out what her vibe is and like just honoring that, like her decision and stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree with everyone. I don't have any conflicts. And the only other thing that I would want to add was just about the staff again. Like I liked how they were so like kind to her and like but they also didn't give her false hope because that's also a big thing because you never obviously want to give false hope as a healthcare professional. So that was really all I wanted to add.
Yeah, I really don't have too much to add either. I kind of agree with everyone. I don't really have any conflicts or with my personal values for like how this staff handled this. I think that they all handled it like pretty well. Like everyone said, just being like kind to her, smiling at her, but like Grace had just said, like not giving false hope. And in Bogues, it states that the nurse's role is to provide the patient with full information about the risk and benefits of prolonging life and to serve as the patient's advocate in support of the person's right to make decisions about the treatment and care. And I think that the staff in this situation just did exactly that. That's what I would do as a future nurse, is just like provide the patient like with as much like information and knowledge as I can, but then also like it's their life, it's their decision in the end, and they could take what they want with that information and make their own decisions. So, how do you guys think that Diane has came to like such a clear vision of like her future end of life like care decisions?
I really just think that like she can clearly make her end of life decisions right now because unfortunately this is not her first experience with the cancer. And I feel like the initial diagnosis probably instilled a lot of fear in her and probably made her start to think like, what would I want to do with my life? How would I want to end my life? Like, and it's just real, there's a lot of big decisions you have to make with a diagnosis like that. And fortunately she went into remission, but now with it coming back, it's kind of like you've come to peace with it and you've made your decisions already, so it's just kind of easier to go through with it. um in the TED Talk he stated, you learn to live well not in spite of death but because of it. And I feel like that's exactly what she did. Like, she's lived a good life, she's got to live her life with her children, but now like she's just come to terms with it and realized she would rather have the comfortability over living a longer life. And yeah, I just feel like the initial diagnosis took a lot away from her. And so now she just has a more comfortable idea of it.
I pretty much had the like similar ideas to Allie. Like she has a good idea. She's been through this treatment before, and her career also helps her get a deeper understanding. I also like had an idea from the TED Talk, and he said so much of it comes down to loving our time by the way of our senses, by the way of the body, the very thing doing the living and the dying. So you're just becoming more aware of the time that you have left and wanting to appreciate it instead of putting yourself through that harsh treatment.
I agree with like what everybody said so far. I feel like she, as a nurse, she even mentioned in the video like she knows she's at a disadvantage, as she said. But even then, I feel like it just made her vision more clearly. Like she has all these like experiences and ideas just to like, I don't know. I always thought like having different perspectives and like different experiences just makes you like better like at like being like making the right choice for you, rather like it gives her like more options, see how it goes. Like I feel like she's in a good spot. Like it made her stronger enough to be able to accept like her decision and be sure of it rather than questioning it.
No, yeah, that's what I said. I said especially since she was a nurse, like she has seen this firsthand, and unfortunately seen it firsthand with her having cancer before and just at her workplace as well. But then I also had something from the TED Talk that I wanted to say about from research, what's most important to people who are closer to death are comfort, feeling unburdened, and unburdened to those who they love, peace, and a sense of wonderment and spirituality, which I feel like is something that Diane is stepping towards like every single day as she's going through this process. And I also think that's very important for pretty much anyone that has to go through that.
Yeah, I think we all pretty much have like similar ideas on like everything so far. I think that like again, she had like come to this decision, like you guys had said, from like her past experience, not only like just like having cancer before, and having to think about that probably then, but also just being a nurse and experiencing like everything, and like seeing like other people go through it. And I think that just kind of really helped her like determine what she would want for the end of her life. Okay, so often we hear nurses say, I know too much when it comes to personal medical concerns. How do you deal with the vast knowledge that you have? How it may sometimes affect your life?
So for me personally, I feel like the knowledge that I have would help me make better healthcare decisions for myself because I know what the symptoms and signs of treatment looks like. And like the fear of the unknown and like losing confidence in your healthcare team can kind of be scary, but like having that knowledge would just make me feel a little bit better. Um, and I feel like also having the knowledge helps me understand my patients' decisions more, which will also affect my life because I'll be working with patients every day. So I feel like just knowing that will help you make the right decision and help you be the right, like, make the right decision for your patient and understand them fully.
Yeah, I pretty much like I agree with Allie for like the most part. Like I feel like it kind of goes both ways. Like you know everything with your knowledge, it might give you more of a negative output because you know most of the outcomes compared to someone who maybe is not a nurse. But then you also have like a benefit because you know what treatments you think could work best for you or any input or any feedback that you could give. So I think it kind of goes both ways because you could give it more of a negative outlook or you could also make it more of a positive outlook.
Yeah, I totally agree. It could definitely go both ways. It's just kind of like the way you decide how to like take it. For me, I feel like having like what we've been learning so far just kind of makes me question my habits, like either eating habits or like, like instead of taking a nap, maybe I should go for a walk, like just like stuff like that just makes me kind of motivates me to like do better for my own health. And like just sometimes seeing my parents, like my dad has diabetes and he can't stop drinking like soda, so like it's just something like I'm always nagging him about because it's just like now I know like how bad it is. And like um working at Silver Cross and just like being in the cardiac department, just seeing all those people that like also have diabetes, I just always tell him like listen to me, like I know stuff.
Yeah, so for I put I think it's both stressful and helpful because I'm a big overthinker to start with. So if I am like witnessing someone going through the end of the life process and they could have something that's like totally like not even like related to me, but I'd be like, oh my gosh, like that's gonna happen to me, like I'm gonna have the same experience and then I'm gonna think it's the worst thing ever because I know what they went through. But then on the other hand, it having this knowledge can also guide me in the right direction when I need to discuss end of life issues because I we wouldn't be seen like it's like running its course and everything. So it'll help me on that aspect.
Yeah, I understand like everyone's point of views and I pretty much like agree. I think that there's pros and cons, positives and negatives. Like it'll help because I will have the knowledge at my access to know what this can do to somebody, but then also on the other hand, everybody is different, kind of like Grace was just saying, like you don't know like how it would like affect you in that certain situation, but like I'm also an overthinker and I feel like I would just kind of assume the worst and I wouldn't just take it like in my own experience and see what would happen. So let's discuss the nurse's role in providing for the client and family during the grief process.
I kind of said that like we as nurses, we play the main role in all the patient's care and especially in the grieving process. And I feel like the grieving process doesn't even start when the patient like actually passes away. It kind of happens when like the family knows that that's going to happen. And it's like we not only make the patient comfortable, but we console the family, we contact the providers on the healthcare team, we set things up, we if they want like a chaplain or someone there, like we start that and like we tend to their spiritual, cultural, and healthcare needs. And we stay by the family side until the end. And we're kind of the ones that like are their shoulder to cry on in that hard time.
I pretty much agree with Allie. Like you're there for the clients and the family, and you're gonna help support them, get rid of any anxiety, try to administer like medications, make them as comfortable as you can. And then an idea that I found in the book is that nurses need to educate patients and families about pain control, including the differences between pain associated with disease progressions, basically just trying to comfort them and do as much as you can to make any process a little bit easier for the patient, which could make it more comfortable for the family to not see them in much pain.
Yeah, I agree with what is said. We're just nurses are just kind of there just to like be a shoulder to cry on, give them a hug, give them a smile, like cheer them up, or just like listen to them, or just be like sitting there next to them. Like, it's like not a time that nobody like wants to be alone with, or even if they do want to be alone, it's just always good to be that type of person that's there to like I'm here like to listen to you, like anything you need, I'll literally provide you, I'll help you or anything. I mean, that's like one of the reasons why I wanted to be in this career. It's just like it's just a good way to just like help people that are really much in need for like anything, something as simple as just listening to them.
Yeah, I just think it's important to provide support and comfort to the patient and family while they're going through the stages of death and dying. And it's also encouraging them to talk about how they're feeling and to be open and like honest about how like they're actually doing, and then just overall taking care of everything that needs to be done. Like everyone said, calling like the chaplain, just talking about them, like religious and like religion, like spirituality and all these things. And in the book, it says that our goal is to maximize the quality of life of the seriously ill or dying patients based on their desires and need for a pain-free situation while maximizing alert. So like I said, it's just all about comfort and just getting them to be happy with their end of life.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. Again, just I think that the nurse's role is to just be there for the patient, to just provide support from like a point of view of someone who's like gone through like a lot of loss. Like it's not just about like the patient that is like going through it, it's also about like their family as well, because it could affect them like so negatively. Like you just like need to be there kind of for everyone. And then it takes a special type of person to be a nurse. Like you have to be caring, you have to actually want to help people. And that's like a part of the reason like why I wanted to be a nurse, is especially to just like help people and make everyone feel like as comfortable as possible, and just things like that, pretty much what everyone else had already said. So, can anyone describe the concept of end of life and palliative care, including the nurse's role?
So like palliative care is just mainly like comfort measures, pain meds, just like promoting the quality of life for the patient and just keeping them comfortable. And then like end of life care is like once the patient is at the brink of death or has already like passed away, like the stuff you do to like prepare their body. And then like honestly like preparing the family as well. Like as someone who's seen three grandparents go through hospice, like it's difficult, but these nurses are one of a kind, and they really just make the patient comfortable and the family comfortable at the same time until they pass or once they've already passed.
Yeah, I definitely like agree with Allie. Like I've seen some people go through it also, and I mean, you're gonna try to like stop it. You could either, I mean, yeah, I'm not even gonna try to elaborate on Allie's ideas when I completely agree with her.
Yeah, I mean, same. I totally agree. Like, I mean, like as the book stated, like for palliative care, like data sharing should be compassionate, accurate, and present in a language understandable to the family, which I feel like is just one I feel like every nurse has done. Um, which is like good, like to keep them updated, as Kaczynski also, Miss Professor Kaczynski said, during lecture once, like she likes to do that, keep them updated, but like she would never want to get rid of hope in some way, which is something I like really want to be. Like I just want to like not be so negative, just kind of like be like present them that information in a way where it's like in the nicest like way possible for like the current situation.
No, yeah, I agree. I mean, the only thing that I can add is just really like understanding from both the patient and their families what they really want, and mainly the patient, but also then just helping the family out at the end, just to help them get them through.
Yeah, I don't really have too much to add. I think everyone pretty much covered it. I agree that like palliative and end of life care are like both important, and just as long as like the patient and the family are comfortable as possible, then that's what's the most important. So let's discuss the spiritual dimensions of healthcare, including the nurse's role and responsibilities.
So I kind of think like the spiritual dimensions kind of tie in with like whatever they believe in religiously, like if they want a chaplain there or some other kind of figure that tends to their religion, or even for the people who aren't religious, like if they would rather just have someone to talk to or like an activity to do. And I just kind of feel like the nurse is the main role in that because you are with the patient 24/7, like you contact everyone. So like if they wanted a chaplain there, you would be the one to contact them. And then I feel like also making sure like for whatever their religion is, making sure their treatment doesn't interfere with that and truly just listening to their belief system is super important.
Yeah, like I definitely agree with Ellie. Like everyone's different. in their own ways and they all have their own beliefs. Like certain people may not want certain treatments. So you as your nurse can also like contact their provider and say, hey, like this does not go into the religious practices. I think we should try X, Y, and Z instead and try to provide the best care you can for them because different people are going to want different things or different services provided for them. And you can't just assume that.
Yeah, I totally agree with Allie and Jacqueline. Like everybody's unique. Like even for me, like I could say I'm Catholic. And like I wouldn't want like a nurse just to stereotype me, oh, she's Catholic, she just wants to do a prayer. Just because I'm Catholic, like doesn't really mean like I I'm more necessarily like wanting to pray and stuff like that. So it's really important for the nurse to just like dig deep, like a little bit about their cultural needs and like what they like, what they want to do, what makes them feel better. And then like just if you could participate and if you're open to that, like participate in that, like keep them company.
No, yeah, I definitely think it's important towards the end of their life because it can help move everyone towards a state of peace as they get ready to prepare for this death. And as a nurse, like we can, like everyone said, ask if they want someone to come or if like they want you to pray with them. And we have to also make sure that we do not let our personal values get in the way like during this time because the patient is the main focus at this point.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like sometimes also, when like religion and like spirituality is like on people's minds, like when they're going through stuff like this, like sometimes it's not. They have so much other things on their mind and like they aren't even like thinking about like stuff like that. So like it's important to ask these questions as a nurse and like Kelly said, to like dig deep and find out more about it because this could be something that's like really like important to them and that like would really help them towards like peace towards the end of their life. So, can anyone differentiate between spirituality and religiosity?
For that, I kind of just had that, like, I feel like spirituality is a lot more individualized and free in terms of like, it's more of a sense of inner peace with the higher power or whatever you believe in. And then like the certain things you do as a person to achieve that. Whereas like religiosity is more community based and it has a specific set of like practices that you follow to be a part of that community. So I feel like they're very different, but yeah, really similar at the same time.
Yeah, I agree with Allie, like how spirituality I think is more of an individual personal belief, and then religiosity is basically like an impact of certain societal views on someone, kind of like as a group, like if your church has certain ideas, like those will apply to you also.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like spirituality is just like your own self, your own beliefs. And then religiosity is just more like community and like the practices they do, the guidelines and stuff like that. Like for me, like spirituality is more like my own morals and like I believe in my soul and stuff like that. And I obviously believe that like my religionosity just like influences those beliefs also, just to be morally good. But like I might not do all the practices and stuff.
You know, also another thing with spirituality, it can change all the time as you get older and like just move through different stages of your life. But I do think they do go hand in hand because I mean, as like I'm Catholic, but I'm also like I think I'm also like a spiritual person. Like so I'm like religious and spiritual. So they do always go like hand in hand. Well, not all the time, but for some people they do.
Yeah, I agree with that perspective. I think that most of the time they can really go hand in hand, and your life experiences really do affect your spirituality, as we all stated, that it's more of like an individualized like belief rather than religiosity, like where it's more so just like the cultural like beliefs, like the practices of like your religion or something like that, which not everyone follows every single practice for like their religion. Think that's pretty much it, unless anyone else has anything to provide for the spirituality dimensions of healthcare, including the nurse's role and responsibilities. We kind of already covered that, but if anyone has anything they'd like to share.
No, not for that. I feel like just as a consensus, we all agree that like it's important that Diane made those decisions and has accepted death because unfortunately it's not her first go around with cancer. So this time it's a little more peaceful for her and for her family as well. Like with her having young children, it's hard to deal with that. And then just like in general with end of life for anyone, in their families. It's hard to go through, and it's something no one wants to think about. Another thing from the TED Talk that I just wanted to throw in there was he stated you want to have intention and creativity to dying, which I feel like is important because like people think of death as like the worst thing ever and horrible, which it is, but like when you come to terms with it, it makes it a lot easier. And then you suffer together, but then like you grieve together and then you come out of it. And so I just feel like as a group, we all agree that like, it's important to think of what you want at your end of life to make your quality of life better and the grieving process easier for your family. So thank you guys for listening, and I hope you guys learned something.